I'm getting ready to make my dye. The rest of the family is watching a movie in the other room, so I figured I'd take advantage of a little bit of quiet. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut up this red cabbage a little bit. So that I can get these leaves, the color extracted from them. I did not do a great deal of research in figuring out how small I should cut things, but I suppose small enough to fit into the pot. I initially thought that I would steam it, but when this opportunity to get to work came up, I didn't want to have to babysit it very much. So I'm just going to try it like this. I have my cabbage, I have my rose petals over here, right here, and I have my avocados. So what I think I want to do, I kind of have to go by the size of my pans that I have. It's going to be awkward trying to move and do this at the same time. But in the smallest pot, I'm going to drop in all of my avocado things. And then in this medium, or this big pot, is where I'm going to put the cabbage, which I'm attempting to also peel with the hand that's holding the camera. Now I have my rose petals in here. And let that go. I've got my super full pot. We're just going to have to let that wilt down. And then I have my avocados back here. I think I have something. Oh, look at that. You can already see the color changing. What do I have, like four skins and 9 pits or something to that effect. So we're just going to let those kind of do their thing for the moment. And we're going to come over here and rinse out the yarn rinse the mordant out. The yarn has been sitting in the mordant for about 24 hours now. So I'm going to rinse it, and then I'll let it sit. And I will decide later tonight if I'm going to get the dyes going tonight, or if I want to let them boil and then sit overnight and then heat them up again in the morning for a little bit and start the dye tomorrow. Either way, I don't think it matters. Okay, so I have all of my yarn just hanging out right here. I'm gonna slide it down a bit, and got the rose petals at a pretty good boil right now. I think I'm already seeing some color leaching. These were quite a bit darker before. I wonder. Oh, look at that. That is very pretty. That's exciting. So I'm going to turn it down even more, I think, and just let it simmer. Our avocados are at a nice rolling boil as well. And I think if I just move them out of the way, you can really see that that's a really dark color as well. And we've got shells coming off of the pits. And yeah. I've got some movement in here now where I didn't have it before. And I don't know if you can see how purple that is already as well. So that's a nice, pretty purpley blue. So we're already getting some color, which is good. We're just waiting for that to come to a boil too. So we're gonna let these sit. It's 6:30. I'm gonna let them sit for an hour at their current boil, and I may turn the roses down even further actually. Turn it down some more, but I'm just gonna let these go for a while and come back in an hour and see where we're at as far as color goes. I do have a lot of material, so I suspect I should actually get pretty decent coloring in a short amount of time, but I still might let them sit overnight and warm them up again in the morning and see if that gives even more color. I'm not sure yet. I got to think about it. I have an hour, but we'll be back in about an hour to check on progress. So we'll see you then. All right, so it's been a little more than an hour now, and I really feel like there just isn't much color left to extract from any of these. From these flowers, and that is just a really rich color. I'm really delighted with that. So I may strain that off tonight. My avocados and quite low on water, so I think I'm going to add more water. The pits have split in half, I can see, and it's really quite dark. Let's see if I can't, just grab the tiniest bit. I'm going to add more water to that. So I'm going to stir that around a little bit. And there we go. Now we can see it's a very brownish, reddish, pinkish, and this is a very reddish color. And then of course we have the cabbage, which has lost quite a bit of color, but I wonder if there's more that I can pull out. And that is just such a dark purple. So what I think I'm gonna do is, look at that. Some of these leaves have actually turned green. I don't recall any of them being green previously. For now, I'm just going to let them sit, and we will check things out again in the morning. Okay, so these have been sitting overnight. Now I'm going to warm them back up again. I'm not sure if I can extract any more color out of anything. but I'm gonna try. Just gonna bring them back up to a boil for a little while. And I think I'm gonna add more water to this cabbage actually. And I think I'm gonna add more water again to the roses. I just want to get as much color as I possibly can. And I'm also going to be leaving in just a minute to pick up some wool and some alpaca, which will be white and not brown and not tan like those, just to see what the color difference is. So we'll be back in a little while to check on progress. I've taken all of the dyes off the heat, so I'm going to let them cool down. I have some water boiling up in the microwave right now so that I picked up some wool because I could from a local yarn factory, a local mill and yarn store. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to weigh the yarn and then weigh out how much mordant I need for that. 158 grams, so we'll say 160 grams, 10% by weight of alum. All right, so I have 16 grams of alum. Which I'm going to dissolve in this big pot, or not pot, but jar. Whoops, can't see what I'm doing over here. So I got that. And now I want half of that by weight in cream of tartar. 8. Okay. And then I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to take my cream of tartar. I'm going to dissolve it in this hot water. Put the cream of tartar. This is a pot of cool water because we don't want to shock the wool by putting it in too hot or too cold of water, but we have to dissolve the mordant in hot water. So I'm going to stir that around. So that's, I don't know, like room temperature-ish. Probably should have gone a little colder. I was supposed to get these wet first. I'm supposed to let them soak for up to 2 hours. Okay, so instead of soaking for 2 hours, I've let them soak for about 2 minutes, and we're just going to call that good. If things don't work, it's because I didn't let them get wet enough. All right, so I just barely squeezed them out. I'm going to put them, they're so settling down to the bottom nicely. Squeeze them out just enough so they're not dripping a bunch of water as I move them. But I barely squeeze them at all. So I want to heat slowly to simmering point. And then simmer for 1 hour. So actually, I'll even turn it down further. Okay, so this has been simmering for a little more than an hour. So now I've just turned off the heat. And I am going to let this cool for a couple hours. So I have my draining station set up here, and I've got a small bowl, which my big strainer fits on top of nicely. And I've got that inside a larger bowl, so that if I misjudge my liquid content, it doesn't go down the drain and I am still able to catch it. And I'm going to put this old holy dish towel over the top just to catch any extra foreign material that may be in there. So it's going to go through here, it's going to go through a strainer and into a bowl. So here I have my setup. I think in this one, because it's the deepest, I'll put the cabbage. This one will probably have the rose, and I'll put the avocado over here. So, and then I'll be able to drape my yarn. In certain ways, I might have to fidget with that a little bit, but for now, that is how it's set up. So I'm going to start by straining the flowers first, because I think that's the lightest color. In front, we have the cabbage. Behind is the rose. And over here is the avocado. I'm going to get some yarn. And we're going to start putting it in, I think. It's time to rinse out our yarn. The wool, I mean. The water is, I don't know, it's still slightly warm. But my patience is really just at its end. I'm just not able to handle it. So I'm going to bring this water up to tepid, not cool, so you don't want to shock the yarn. And look at just the color that avocado. Look at that. You can see how it's already starting to crawl up. Wow. So we're just gonna let this sit for a day at least, maybe more. And just really let that color get in there. Ooh, super excited. Okay, we'll see you in a while. So it's now 11 o'clock in the morning, and these have been in since about 3 o'clock yesterday. And I'm going to leave them, I think. I may have to remordant the wool though. I feel like in my rush, in my impatience, perhaps they didn't mordant properly, because I feel like I don't feel like it's holding the color very well when I pull it out of the water, or when I pull it out of the dye bath. So it has color, and then I squeeze it, and it doesn't seem like any of the color is staying. So I probably screwed up there. I maybe didn't have the temperature hot enough when I did the mordant. So I need to figure out what I'm going to do. If I'm just going to pull them out and do a remordant process today. But this one is really taking in some nice color, and that's staying really well.
Oh, everyone has the same.
Well, this one is doing pretty well, actually. Maybe that one is too, a little bit. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how much I should mess with this process. But yeah, I just feel like it's not holding the color very well so far. And it's possible it's because I just really rushed the mordanting process. And I shouldn't have done that. So we will see, and the wool could just have a different color because of the dye that's already been taken up by the cotton. Okay, so I picked up some more wool because I have lots of dye left and I want to use it. This wool has taken up color very nicely, and I am going to be rinsing it out and washing it while at the same time preparing my other wool mordant bath. So this has been soaking for about an hour and a half, a little longer than that. So it is fully saturated. I'm gonna take my cream of tartar mixture and I'm going to dump it in. And stir that. I'm going to take my alum mixture. I'm going to stir that in. Okay, and now I'm going to take all my wool and I'm going to put it in the pot. Now it's the same temperature as the wool was because it's the same water, which means it won't shock the wool. You don't want to do that. Now I'm going to take this other yarn out and rinse it out and get it drying. So what I used is Eucalan, which is a wool specific wash. Okay, now I didn't expect the color to change, so I thought I'd be able to tell the difference. And truthfully, I don't know which one was which. I may have to go back and look and see where this darker color came from. That might be from this over here, from where the cabbage was. Just look at this avocado color. I really like that very, very much. We're starting to steam, but I need to get it to an actual simmer. So it's been simmering for an hour now, and I just turned off the heat. And because the dye is cold, and I need to let this cool off, otherwise I risk ruining the fibers. I'm just gonna let this sit here and cool overnight, and in the morning I will put it in the dye bath. I still haven't decided what I'm gonna do, if I'm just gonna do one color or two colors or all three. But I don't have to decide that right now. And just, you know, one last time, because they're so pretty, is the other skeins. Like you can see the difference now between the cabbage and the rose. The cabbage has just a hint more blue in it. And you can kind of tell this is bluer than this is here. So, I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit more. Of course, I have all night to think about it and to see what I want to do. But there we go. That's where we're at right now. So we're just gonna call it a night and decide in the morning. So I'm going to get this new wool into the dye bath. So I'm just gonna squeeze it out a little bit. And this is, I'm sorry, the lighting is just not very good because of the time. But you can see how much, I think you can see, the color's pretty subtle, but definitely is there. And I couldn't decide, or I struggled to decide what I was going to do. And I think ultimately what I want to do, because I did a different, I just took my time mordanting. Oops, I don't actually have a setup over here. I am going to put it in all three, but the majority of the yarn I'm going to put into the avocado and not as much into the other two colors. So I'm going to put that in and then I'll bring you back up. Okay, so that's the majority of it into the avocado, and I just have a little bit over here in the cabbage and just a little bit here in the rose. And I'm just gonna let that do its thing for about 2 days, like the other one was, and we will see what happens. So my cotton yarn is all dry now. And I got some really gorgeous colors out of these natural materials, which is really fun. So the cabbage ended up drying as this light blue color, and the avocado is this pinkish. And for reasons that I cannot explain or understand, the rose petals turned green. Now, I don't know if that's a result of maybe mixing with the other dyes, if somehow it changed the the color or the pH of the dye. I'm not really sure. But I did get this lovely green color out of the rose petal bath. And I don't feel like there's a lot of color variation between the different kinds of yarn. They look to be, I mean, pretty similarly colored, which is really fun. The bamboo, this one got some really fun, like darker, I'm not sure if you can really see that, probably not, but it's a little darker here, a little purplier, and not quite so pinkish. And it could just be the kind of yarn it is. I don't know if you can tell if I set them side by side. I just don't have enough, like a big enough space here where I'm trying to show you all this yarn. But yeah, this one is just, it's darker. And in this cotton one as well, it did get a little bit darker than this pink here. But yeah, so that's the result. And if you remember, this cotton was white, bright white. And now I have all these lovely pastel colors. And what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to skein them or wind them back up into cakes. And then I am going to make little washcloths out of them. And we'll see how many I get. And then I'll keep what I want, and maybe I'll try to sell the rest of them. Just because they're so cool, and I may not need 53 washcloths. So there we go. That is the result of the cotton dyeing. Okay, so my yarn has been sitting in here for about 24 plus about 30 hours so far. And here is what I'm thinking I'm gonna do. I really adore this alpaca, the avocado color. And what I want to try, I know what this is gonna look like. I mean, look at that nice green. The light just really isn't working for me here, is it? Yeah, so it's a nice darkish green, which I know will get lighter. And I've got some purple going on in here. And this I know is going to turn green when I rinse it, because that's what happened before. So what I want to do is I'm going to take this whole thing now. I'm going to put it all into the avocado. Going to squish this all into here. And what I am hoping will happen is I'll get some really fun avocado colors. I'm trying to get it so the yarn is not on top of each other. I'm getting pretty low on the liquid, at least for 200 yards of yarn. All right, so now I've got all that in there. And I'm just gonna let that sit now for another, maybe until tomorrow morning. Unless I'm feeling really impatient, then tonight in about 6 hours I'll take it out. And we will see what happens when I mix these two. And yeah, and maybe we'll get some really, really fun colors, or I don't know, maybe it won't work at all. I have no idea. But I'm willing to gamble because I just love the way all the other colors turned out. And I imagine that I will love this just as much. Okay, so this is the fully dried wool for the first one. This one's got some fun like purple and stuff in it, which is a nice little Easter egg in there. This one also has the same kind of purple throughout. So that's exciting. I, as you may remember, put this in the avocado all together, and now we're gonna rinse it out. It is 7:30 p.m. so it's been sitting in here for about 6 hours. We're gonna rinse it and we're gonna see what happens. Well, I definitely have some green. And this does have that peachy avocado look to it still, so that's good. And this must be where the cabbage was. There's just really not much color in here at all. So, not gonna lie, it's kind of tempting actually to stick it back in. I wonder if that would do anything. To see if I can maybe get an even richer color. I'm pretty sure that I don't have to remordant if I want to over dye, which is to just dye on top of a dye. I think I might stick it back in. And leave it. I don't know, what should I do? That green is just so, that is just really green. I might stick it back into the avocado and the rose for a while. And see if I can't get more color. Leave it until tomorrow afternoon. Because I feel like I want more color in here, if I can get it. Yep, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stick it back in. All right, so I did about half in here and half in there. I'm feeling greedy. I want more color. So we'll leave it in until tomorrow afternoon, I think, and then I'll take it back out and let it dry. Perhaps it's just the lighting. It just looked so light. It looked like all of the color washed out. And maybe I'm just being paranoid. But there has been a lot of yarn through there and a lot of dye pulled out. So it's possible I may not get any extra color. That might be as good as it gets. But we'll see. We'll look again tomorrow and then decide. So, false alarm. I'm not taking it out yet. But we'll see. I am actually taking my yarn out this time. No takesy backsies. Whatever color it is the color I'm going with. That green got darker, I think, from the extra time, where it was already green, or perhaps where the cabbage was. My husband and I have already decided that our next dye project, or my next dye project, I should say, is going to be super concentrated avocado. Just one color, the whole thing in there. We're gonna put it in for 2 or 3 days, and we're gonna see what happens. I feel like this is a bit paler. Oops, that makes sense. Because this dye, I think this dye is pretty well used up actually. There's been a lot of fiber that's gone into it. Now I'm going to dump my dye down. I still think it's very curious that this turned green. It could be a pH thing. I still haven't looked that up. But in any case, it did come up with a lovely color, which I'm very pleased with. Do something fun. Doesn't really turn colors. You know what we could do? So cabbage is pH sensitive. And I have here some baking soda. You want to see something fun?
Yeah.
Hey kids, you want to see something fun?
Kitchen. What?
Alright, get to where you can see inside the sink without being in my way.
Hey. And watch out for that powder.
Without being in my way.
Guys. Back up.
Okay, so I don't want that to fall.
Back.
So I need you to get away from the counter, please.
Yep. Back up. Get off the chair. I'm gonna scoot the chair in so you can stand on it.
Scoot the chair on this side.
Yep. That's what I'm trying to do. How about that? So you have two handles.
Alright, are you ready?
Yeah.
See if it works. See it changing color?
Yeah. I see blue in there.
Yeah. What color was it before?
Black.
Do you remember? Oh, it was
Purple.
purple.
Purple. Oh, the blue is the window. There's more coming in. More what? Coming in.
Baking soda.
What about dump that whole thing in?
That would be too much.
Why? What color would it change?
I don't know. I was seeing if it changed more blue. Look at that. That's pretty cool, huh?
Do you want it more blue?
I don't know if it gets more blue. All right. Now,
What will happen? Patrick, your head is in my way. We see what color that turns.
color still pretty teal. It's reacting with the baking soda.
Oh. Getting hot. Something.
See that?
Yeah.
What color is that?
Blue. Remember how it turns white? Yeah.
Probably should have split this in half.
Oh, I see it changing color when you swirl it. Purplish. Purple. See it changing color and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing it change color.
All right, we'll do a little bit more.
That looks like it'll be even more purple. We want to make it blue. I knew it. It's purple. How much
This is
left?
vinegar.
Mommy, What's this stuff on your gloves?
Water.
I'll get it out.
It's okay. Just leave it, please.
She said just leave it. This is so cool.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun?
Mommy, can I see?
All right.
Patrick, your head is in my way. Ooh, pink. Pink. More pink.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, it's turned. The next color it turns will be red.
Yeah.
I could see it turning reddish.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to show you.
Oh. Now can you go back to playing?
Yep, see ya. Whoa, slow down. Okay. So this is the yarn I just pulled out. The color is not very true because I just have bad evening light. But it's greenish up at the top and a very pale peachy color. So I'm going to let that dry. And then we'll compare it with the other ones and see how it goes. Okay, so here is all of the wool yarn that I dyed. So these are the 3 that I started with and the final one. So what I really like is all of these like little darker spots, which are really cool. Even though the overall color is a lot lighter, I think it's got some real interest in it. This is the avocado and rose, and it also got some of like the darker, like purpley-ish colors in that. This is the cabbage and rose petals. And again, just those really cool darker purple spots. And then finally, oh, wait a minute. These look like the same. Yes, this is the cabbage one. When they're next to each other, and I don't feel like my camera is really getting that trueness. This one is greener and this one is bluer. And I think you're just going to have to take my word on that. Because as I'm looking, I just don't feel like the color is coming across quite as true. But you can kind of see the difference, like it's greener, bluer, you know what I mean? So there we go. The results of the final results of all of the dyeing. And now I just have to figure out what in the world I'm going to make with these, but it's going to be delightful. So thank you so much for watching this. I know it got really long, but this is like a 6-day process, almost a week, to get all of this done. So I cut the video down as much as I possibly can. And there she is. Have a wonderful day and stay tuned for the next dyeing project, which should be super fun as well.